This meeting is being recorded.
All right, welcome everybody to this evening's webinar with Can Bike London. They have been very gracious to be with us tonight in order to actually help individuals learn more about bike safety and how to really navigate the city of London on a bike throughout this amazing summer season. We've already had beautiful weather, so I'm super excited to have Gosse be able to speak to us and share his wealth of knowledge. So before we get into the actual presentation, I do want to take time today to acknowledge the land that we do reside on. So as you guys know, today is National Indigenous Peoples Day. And so we were actually very fortunate here at Reforest London today, where we were given time to reflect and really take in the contributions that Indigenous peoples have given to not only the London community, but Canada as a whole and the world in terms of environmental stewardship, in terms of water preservation, and in terms of teaching us more about sustainability each and every day. And the Westminster Pond Centre stands on the traditional territory of the Attwater on Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Lenape peoples, who for time immemorial have had longstanding relationships with the land and water that surrounds us. And we are constantly trying to learn more and be better here at the Westminster Pond Centre. And as part of that, we are trying to also develop relationships with the local First Nations groups around the City of London, which include the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation, of whom are still great stewards of the land and still teach individuals within the community new things each and every day. So we at the Westminster Pond Centre also place high value on the significant contributions, both historical and contemporary, of local and regional First Nations, and we strive daily to work and grow alongside communities towards a better and more sustainable future. So I really hope that you guys can take a few moments before we get into this presentation to really reflect on the contributions that Indigenous people have made to our community, have made to our nation, and continue to do so, and really take time to delve into resources and learn more for yourself on your own. Thank you. So a little bit of housekeeping for the start of the presentation. Please do keep your mics muted during the session. If you have any questions or comments, place them in the chat box in order for them to be saved for the question and answer period at the end. Everyone who has registered will receive a recording within 48 hours of the event ending. And then once you get the survey at the very end, an email will go out with the survey. Just tell us how we did, and so we can make sure that we're constantly improving to make sure we're bringing better environmental education to the City of London. So today's presentation is brought to you by the Signal Boost Initiative, which is a project of Reforest London and the Westminster Pond Centre for Environment and Sustainability. And so the center is a developing community hub with services and programming that promote environmental excellence, sustainability, health, and well-being across our region. And the Signal Boost Initiative program works to dramatically increase the number of public and volunteer environmental educational opportunities that are available within the City of London. We are very fortunate that this initiative is made possible with the support of the Ontario Trillium Foundation. And Reforest London, the Westminster Pond Centre, and the Signal Boost Initiative are fortunately very well supported by Canada Life, which is our lead sponsor, and the Ontario Trillium Foundation, who sponsors the Signal Boost Initiative. So getting into the presentation today, so Can Bike curriculums are oriented towards recreational and utilitarian cycling to build confidence up while riding on the road, and is the only nationally accredited cycling program of its type in Canada. If you guys do want to know more about upcoming in-person live courses where you can actually practice with certified instructors who can teach you how to set up your bike properly in person, please visit their website in order to find out about upcoming courses. So this presentation today is an overview of cycling safety and basic traffic dynamics as found in the approach that Can Bike uses, and Gosse will be leading this out for us and doing some great things. So before we actually get into that, I would like to start off with a little bit of a poll so we can get to know you guys. And so first off, can everyone please take a moment to tell us, as a cyclist, are you a child, a teen, an adult, or a senior? All right, so we got a group of seniors who are amazingly staying active still. You guys are doing a great job, really leading it. I guess us young people like me need to really pick up the slack and get on our bikes more, get out of our cars. But it'll be definitely great for us to learn a thing or two from you guys who are experienced riders. Now, moving on to our second poll. As a cyclist, how often do you actually ride? So is it once a day, once a week, once a month, or once a year? All righty. So it's about an even mix, about once a week or once a month. Nice 50-50 split there. All right, so just before I hand it over to Goss, we are going to take a moment to pop over onto a video that's going to give you a basic introduction to bike traffic skills, just to get you guys situated.
Ever been hit by a car? Let's keep it that way. CanBike Manitoba presents Bike Traffic Skills, a guide to traffic safety. First things first, most people don't know that it's illegal to ride on the sidewalk in Canada. That is, unless you're on a kid's bike or signs tell you otherwise. Cycling on the street is actually safer than riding on the sidewalk. You're less likely to be cut off by drivers exiting back lanes and side streets, or running into joggers and their dogs. Also, there aren't any rules or a code of conduct on sidewalks and pathways like there are on the road. When you're riding on the road, it's important to remember that you have all the rights and duties as the cars around you. So to ride properly with traffic, just remember MVPC: maneuverability, visibility, predictability, and communication. Be the MVP of cycling. Leaving yourself enough room to maneuver is important, since potholes and car doors can be a cyclist's worst enemies. Ride about a meter from the curb and at least 1 meter from parked cars. Don't hug the curb when you ride. That's where garbage and road debris gathers, and motorists might try to squeeze into the lane with you without slowing down. If you're riding on a narrow street with no shoulder or bike lane, you may take the lane. Keep in mind you might encounter frustrated drivers who are unfamiliar with your right to your own lane. So if you feel uncomfortable, consider taking a route with less traffic. Railway tracks that intersect the road at a sharp angle can be tricky to ride over because your tires can get caught in the track grooves. When you're riding up to the tracks, change your position so you can meet them at close to a 90-degree angle. Remember to signal your intentions to other drivers and don't swerve suddenly. Many vehicle cyclist accidents are caused by lack of visibility. Road positioning, bad weather, and time of day affect the visibility of cyclists. Wear bright clothing when you're riding during the day, and if you plan on riding at night, you'll need a set of bike lights, a white headlight on the front, and a rear-facing red light on the back. Another important aspect of cyclist visibility is the direction you're heading. Always ride with the flow of traffic, never against it. Traffic is never looking for cyclists going the wrong way. When riding in traffic, it's important to behave like traffic. This means stopping at red lights and stop signs, just like everybody else. And always ride in a straight line. Don't weave in and out of parked cars. Motorists will have an easier time navigating around you if you aren't weaving in and out of traffic. When stopping at an intersection, you might be tempted to move towards the curb. Stay on your riding line to maintain your visibility. And watch for impatient drivers who might turn in front of you. Don't stop or ride in a turning lane if you intend to go straight. Just move to the rightmost lane that takes you on your way. When approaching a lineup of stopped or slow-moving traffic, resist the urge to pass on the right side. Motorists won't expect a cyclist to suddenly appear to their right and may turn in front of you without warning. Passing on the left side is okay. It's important to be predictable when making a left turn because this often requires crossing traffic. First of all, never turn left directly from the far right side of the road. Whether you're turning left from a single lane road or from a street that has 2 left turn lanes, the procedure is simple. Position yourself in the rightmost lane that takes you where you want to go, while remembering to signal and shoulder check often. If you're riding down a one-way street, the normal riding position is to stay on the right, just like on any other street. When you're ready to turn left, signal your way over to the center of the leftmost lane and make your turn from there. Try not to enter an intersection next to a vehicle. You won't be able to see their signal light if they decide to make a last-second turn. Instead, make sure you're either slightly behind or ahead of the nearest car. Be especially careful of larger vehicles like trucks and buses. They can't always see you, and their wide turns may cut you off. If you don't feel comfortable turning with traffic, you have the option to proceed through the intersection, dismount, and redirect yourself. Communication is important for anyone traveling on the road. Since a cyclist is much smaller than any vehicle, you need to assert your presence and make sure that other drivers know what you're doing. Proper visibility and positioning are the first steps. Shoulder checking is crucial anytime you want to change lanes or tire tracks. You won't always hear the cars behind you, so shoulder checking is a good habit to get into. Shoulder checking also acts as an early indicator to motorists that you're thinking of turning. Just like all drivers, cyclists must signal their intentions. Practice all your hand signals so they become second nature to you. Try to make eye contact with drivers when necessary, so you know that they can see you. Now that you know the ins and outs of traffic safety, it's time to get out there and enjoy cycling. Have fun. Ride safely.
All right, and with that, I would like to turn it over to Gosse, who's going to lead us through the rest of the presentation.
Okay, I'm going to click on share screen. Right. Okay, so let's go. Okay, wrong one. Can't actually. Well, I can't find my, it's right behind us. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we'll talk about helmet use to start off with, because that is one way to keep yourself safe in a fall. Oops. C. Okay. The proper way to wear a helmet. We use the 2 fingers above the eyebrow rule. The straps should be close in front and behind your ear and below the ear. And it should be no more than 1 finger width between your chin or throat and the strap. Okay. If the helmet is too loose, it may fall off in a crash and not do the job of protecting your head. Okay. A helmet is has a specific time limit. It should not be worn after it's more than 5 years old because of environmental damage, sweat, and so on. It can cause the helmet to deteriorate. And you should always replace a helmet if it's been involved in a crash. Okay, we will answer questions about helmets later in the program. Bicycle adjustment and fit. So when you're buying a bicycle, it's important to have one that is the right size, or you may feel unnecessarily sore after riding a bicycle. So frame size is very important. And the frame size is measured from the top of the bottom of your seat tube to the top of the bottom bracket. The bicycle can also be adjusted in various ways. For example, seat height. Your seat height should be at the height where when the ball of your foot is over the pedal spindle, there should be a slight bend in the knee when the foot is at the bottom of the stroke. And with the heel on the pedal, the legs should be straight. The hips should not wobble, and you should not be able to put both feet on the ground when in saddle. Seat angle, generally the nose of the saddle should be level with the rear of the saddle. And that's for comfort. Fore and aft, the seat can be moved front and back, forwards and backwards on the saddle rails, so that you can adjust the distance between your handlebars and the seat. The handlebar height can be adjusted. They can be slightly below the saddle height for touring, or if you're riding just normally around the city, the best way is to have an upright position where you can see around you, and then the handlebar can be a little higher. Tilt on the handlebars could be slightly moved back and forth to the position that your hands feel comfortable. Some riders prefer a slight angle with the bar ends pointing down at about a 10-degree angle. On flat handlebars, such as most city-type bikes, brake lever should be approximately 30 degrees from the horizontal, so hands can rest easily on the brake lever. You want to be able to stop quickly, so you should have your fingers resting lightly on the brake lever, not pressing down, but resting lightly. Okay. Handlebar stem can be adjusted up and down. Stems are available in different extensions and risers to increase or decrease the reach. Using riding comfort as a gauge, one popular rule is that the handlebars should obscure one's view of the hub when you're sitting on the saddle and your hands are on the brake hoods. The crank length can be you can choose various crank arm lengths based on whether you want to have more or less power while you're riding. Chainring combinations can be custom built. Common road bike configuration is 4252 teeth and the chainring. The saddle, men's saddle tend to be longer and narrower. Women's saddles a little wider and shorter. Newer saddles make attempts at providing increased comfort for the rider. For example, gel saddles and anatomical saddles. Modern saddles now come with a ventilation so that you get better comfort while riding. Okay. Now, we do recommend that, and we teach this in Can Bike too, that before a ride, if you haven't been on the bike for a while, you do an ABC quick check, which is how to determine if your bicycle is in good physical working condition. So A is for air, that's everything to do with your tire and your spokes and your wheels. Check to see if the wheels are true. That means that they're not wobbling and that there's no loose spokes or broken spokes. The valve should be sticking directly straight out of the rim rather than on an angle. And the tread should be not worn. Now, a lot of bikes that are ridden are now don't have tread on the bottom because tread gives more rolling resistance, but there should be plenty of tread on the edges of your tire for turning and cornering. B is for brakes and bars. handlebars. So the brake levers should be far enough from your handlebar. You should be able to put 2 fingers width when pulled. And the brake pads should be touching only on the rim, not on the tire. If you don't have brake pads, you likely have another kind of brake. So check your brakes. You can walk beside your bike, grab the brake levers, and pull your bike. And if the wheels don't turn, then your brakes are working. Also check to see if the cables are frayed or worn. Check to see if the headset is loose. The headset is where the handlebar is attached to the frame. Apply the brakes and rock the bike back and forth. If there's any play, the ball bearings, casings need tightening. This may need a trip to the bike shop. And side to side and up and down, hold the front wheel between your knees and try to twist the handlebars. There should be no play in the handlebars. C is for the chain and the crank. Make sure that the chain is not muddy or dirty and that it's lubricated. Do the pedals spin freely? Are the derailleurs in correct position? Sometimes a chain will skip if there's looseness, and you want to correct that. And then quick is for the quick releases. The lever should be tight to the axles and the forks, so that they won't catch on anything. And then lift the bike and drop it slightly to check for any rattles that indicate worn or loose parts. So that's it for the ABC Quick Check. We can have bicycle safety equipment. Lots of cyclists like to use cycling gloves. Cycling gloves have padded palms to absorb the shock of cycling. And in a crash or a fall, when you put your hands out to absorb the impact of hitting the road, the gloves can protect you. And they can also absorb perspiration and protect you from sunburn. Often a cyclist's hands are the most exposed part of the body. And I can attest to that. I often get sunburned when cycling on my hands and arms. A bell is required on a bicycle in Ontario, and that's part of the law. There is a fine for not having a bell or a horn. And if you can save yourself by spending $3 to $5 on a bell, you may save over $100 on a fine. So that's a good investment. So in an emergency, the voice is the best warning device. When on a multi-use trail, often a cyclist will say, passing on your left. And then pedestrians will hopefully stay to the right. Reflective tape required by the Highway Traffic Act. This should be on the front forks and the rear forks. White on the front forks and red on the rear forks. Every bike by legislation is required to have a rear brake. So that includes coaster bikes that don't have handbrakes and just have a rear brake. And you have to remember that in a hard braking situation, the front brake of the bicycle does 75% of the braking work. So make sure when you're braking that you use both brakes. Otherwise, the front brake may cause the rear wheel to lift up off the ground and cause you to fly over the handlebars. Okay. Lights are important. Even if you're not riding at night, a cyclist with the lights on is much more visible. And you'll probably see cyclists with the lights on in daylight. A white light on the front and a red light or reflector on the rear You can now have flashing lights, as a traffic act was changed to allow cyclists to put on a flashing light. Most lighting systems allows you to be seen, but then do not do a great job of allowing you to see. So if you're cycling in the country, you may need a bigger light, stronger, more expensive lighting systems. There are some lights that are USB powered now. You can plug them in to recharge the battery, and some are just batteries. There's also some bikes that have generator lights. Lights are required from half an hour before sunset to half an hour after sunrise. Just like driving a car, you need your lights on. Okay, that's it for lights. Also, when you're carrying things, it's not recommended that you carry shopping bags on your handlebars, because it causes your bike to be out of balance. So it's inevitable, when you need to carry something, you should have some plan as how to carry things. You need both your hands on the handlebars. So a rack with panniers or a plastic box mounted over the rear wheel, or a backpack or a basket on the front for small items are the ways to carry things. The thing about the backpack, it's okay for short distances, but over a length of time, it can cause sweat to gather, or you can it can raise your center of gravity and may affect your stability. Clothing, make sure your shoelaces are tied. Don't wear sandals or flip-flops. Don't have loose clothing. If you wear long pants, make sure that the pants do not catch in the chain, that you have pant clips on, or that you put a strap around your pant leg. Or in a pinch, you can tuck your pants into your socks. Clothing should be bright to add visibility. I normally carry around a loose-fitting orange vest that I put on, and it's reflective. So I've been told it's visible for at least a block. It should be weather appropriate, but make sure that when you're cycling that you're not dressing too warm, because if you're cold before you start cycling, you could be quite hot after you're cycling for a bit. Keep both hands on the handlebar. Carrying things is dangerous. Use racks or panniers, and many cyclists wear gloves for comfort, as I mentioned. Okay, different things about the bike. Bike design is about variations on a theme: 2 wheels, a parallelogram, or double diamond, shaped frame, and handlebars to steer, and a seat. But beyond that, there's many variations of a bicycle. Some have 3 wheels, some have 4 wheels, some are recumbents, some are tandems. So when getting a bike, you look at size, the weight. For example, if you live on the 2nd floor and you have to carry your bike up the stairs, the weight of the bike could be quite an issue. Rigidity is also important, because a bike will flex while you add torque to the pedals, and you can cause the bike to slightly change shape, and that causes the forward momentum to be curtailed. So tube rigidity is important, but not as important as some other things. Wheelbase length, the longer the wheelbase, the more stable a bike is. Rake or tail, which is important to some people, especially in racing. Repairability, if you have like a chromoly bike, frame bike, may not be as repairable as, say, a steel bike, which can be bent back into shape if it's damaged. Okay. Sometimes if you need to add things, eyelets or braze-ons, and some bikes don't come with a carrier for your water bottle, so you can attach it to a brace-on. And eyelets are good for attaching fenders. The width, the strength of the rims and spokes. If you're riding in very rough conditions, the stronger the bike, the better. Upright bars are dropped, important. Mostly drop bars are good for improving aerodynamics, and if you're racing or riding long distance in the country, drop bars are a better way to go. And a lot of people that live in hilly areas would want to have some low gears so you can climb those hills. The width of the tire is important for comfort, pedal design, and saddle design. So these are the things to think about when you're looking for a bike. Okay. So checking. Let's see, where are we now? Okay. It's hard to see the well, appendixes. Okay, we have lost the appendix one. Appendix C. Appendix K. Okay, here we go. Just a bit of a graphic description on how to ride when riding on the roads. So first of all, we want people to be comfortable riding. It's probably fun to ride on the trails, but at some point you need to get there, and so that might incur riding on the roads where you see automobile traffic. So where does a cyclist ride? About a meter from the curb, as you saw in the video. This is the cyclist. In this case, there's enough room for the cyclist to be a meter from the curb, avoiding the grates, and still have almost a meter between the car and himself. Drivers should stay at least a meter away from the cyclist by law. If you have an obstructed lane, you have to negotiate with other vehicles in order to move around the obstruction. So you shoulder check, as I mentioned in the video, and then you point left with your hand to indicate that you're turning left, and you do a second shoulder check, and then you ride around the obstruction. And then when it's safe to do so, you go back to your meter from the curb. Sometimes, especially some of the smaller roads will have a narrow lane, and the figure on the right is in a wide lane where there's sufficient room for the driver to pass the cyclist within the lane. But if there is not enough room for a driver to pass the cyclist, then the cyclist should take the middle of the lane. That's taking the lane, in order to prevent the driver from trying to overtake you, the cyclist, within the lane and causing problems. And when you have a parked car, as you saw in the video, you shoulder check, signal shoulder check, and go around the parked car. If there's another parked car, you stay out in the lane, so you don't have to constantly renegotiate. Also, if you're between parked cars, you become invisible to the drivers. So it's important to stay where you are visible, and drivers can then avoid you. It's hard to avoid you if they can't see you. Passing on the right is not recommended. for obvious reasons. There's people can open their car doors, or they may be squeezed too close to the curb. So it's important not to pass vehicles on the right. As I said in the video, you may be tempted to pass. What happened? All right. You may be tempted to pass a lot of stalled cars on the right, but it's dangerous to do so because drivers can't see you in their blind spot. At intersections, it is perfectly okay to pass a vehicle that's right turning on the vehicle's left. Or you can wait behind. If the light is green, this car is going to go and make a right turn. The cyclist in front will go ahead before this car can go. The cyclist behind waits for the car to make the turn, and the cyclist beside has a clear run to cross the intersection. So that is the correct position. It may take a little while to feel comfortable being on the left side of moving vehicles, but once you do it, it becomes second nature. Here you see the wrong way to do it. You're on the right side of the car, and that car is going to turn, and the right hook is the result. If you're at an intersection, it's important to position yourself in the intersection with the intent to go straight. You position yourself to go to the right of the left of the parked cars, or right of a meter from the curb. In this case, there's parked cars on both sides of the intersection, so the cyclist stays in the same trajectory. And once you're in that trajectory, there's no need to shoulder check and signal, because you're already in the lane that you're planning to go. So that's the reason for positioning yourself according to your destination. Right turn only lanes. Okay, we've all seen them. They are usually a little bit longer than this, but you end up going straight in the straight ahead lane. If you go into the right turn lane, you're indicating to drivers that you're going to turn right, which, if you're not going to do that, is giving the wrong information. In this case, the cyclist is doing a shoulder check and then another shoulder check, but you don't signal because you're going straight. You're not moving within that lane. On a left turn residential, you do the shoulder check, signal and shoulder check, and move to the close to the center of the road, which is, you stay on the right side of the center, but you're close to the center. Then you make your left turn when it's safe to do so. And then you go back to the curb after shoulder checking. The reason for this is a car may be coming out of this road, make a right turn, or there may be a car coming straight through if it's like a four-way road. Arterial roads with multiple lanes, when you're making a left turn, again, you shoulder check, signal left, and then you move over, shoulder check, signal left, you move into the left turn lane, and then shoulder signal left and make your left turn. When you're through the intersection, you shoulder check, signal right, and then move to the curb lane. Of course, at all times, you have to watch for traffic coming towards you across the intersection. With a left turn only lane, it's the same thing. You turn into the second lane, and then you turn into the left turn only lane. Also shoulder checking and signaling each time. Make a turn into the curb lane, or actually the center lane, and then shoulder check, signal, and then go into the curb lane. Railroad tracks, I think that was mentioned also in the video, because tires can get stuck on the tracks, especially if they're at an angle. You need to signal or shoulder check, move to the left, and then cross the tracks at a right angle. The other angle, you stay at the curbside, shoulder check, signal, shoulder check, and move at a right angle, and then come back to the curb. Now, if there's too much traffic to do that, I would get off the bike and just walk across the tracks. And that's it for there's one item that was mentioned, I think, is big vehicles. So be aware that big vehicles have also large blind spots. Stay away from this area between the curb and the vehicle. Stay behind the vehicle, because normally they will turn a little bit to the left. And that goes for school buses or other buses as well. They will turn a bit to the left, and this garbage truck is then going left and then turning right. So if you're in between the curb, you're going to get run over by the rear wheels. Okay.
All right, so that's a perfect time for our poll. So the next poll coming up is asking you guys, do you find that our city streets here in London are safe overall to ride on? Ooh, we got some no's. Okay, there's a yes coming in. All right, so about an even split of yes and no. So hopefully when we get to the Q&A period, Gosse, you can give us some answers about how we can make sure that our streets are a little bit safer. Our next poll question is asking you guys, what do you guys believe would make city streets in London safer for you to ride on the more often? All right, so it is looking like higher speed roads having segregated bike lanes on them and more off-street recreational bike paths are the two biggest ones that people in the chat believe would make our London roads safer to ride on.
Okay. All right. So carrying on, we'll talk about traffic dynamics. And it's on F. So as was mentioned also in the video, though that it did skip over it fairly quickly, basic approach to safety is to see, be seen, and be predictable. So cyclists need to know what is going on around them on the road. So also that includes no distracted driving. So no earphones in because that might block out traffic noise and warnings of approaching vehicles. So you need to anticipate what will happen down the road, particularly at intersections. By anticipating potential problems, for example, cars turning at intersections, cyclists can plan where they will position themselves to avoid conflict as much as possible. And then be seen. Cyclists are safest when other roads users can see them. So using lights at night is important. Wearing bright and reflective clothing. Also being visible means being part of the traffic flow. Choosing the correct road position, like a meter from the curb, is an important part of being visible. And then thirdly, be predictable. Cyclists are predictable when they ride according to the law, when they ride in a straight line, and when they communicate their intentions about changing positions or directions, which we do by signaling and by eye contact. By following these guidelines, cyclists send a clear and confident message to other road users that bicycles are an effective and safe method of transportation and that bicycles belong on the road. Oops, trying to get it to go down a page. Okay, so that all comes with experience, and you can judge the speed and distance of vehicles behind you by shoulder checking. So then we look at the 5, what's happening here? I keep losing the, okay. Look at the 5 cycling principles. So we ride defensively, just like driving a car. You ride on the right side of the roadway. As mentioned on the video, if you ride on the left, you're not expected to be there. And drivers pulling up at an intersection may look only to their left and not see traffic coming from the right. So cyclists who are riding the wrong way are vulnerable. It's also illegal. So yielding to crossing traffic when appropriate. So when you're at an intersection and traffic is coming from a major road, the major road has a right of way. Drivers on a minor road must yield to the main street. And at an uncontrolled intersection, the driver also who arrives last yields. If drivers arrive simultaneously, the one on the left yields, or the one on the right goes first, whichever way you want to look at it. And thirdly, yield the same direction traffic when appropriate. And you do that by shoulder checking and signaling that indicates to other drivers, road users, that you are going to be moving to another position on the lane or the road. But always remember that the vehicle that's there first has the right of way. And then position yourself at intersections depending on your intended direction, which I've mentioned before in the graphs. And finally, position yourself between intersections according to your speed relatively to the rest of traffic and usable width of the road. So on a lane that's too narrow to share, ride in the middle. On a wide lane, if you're the slower vehicle, ride to the right. If you're the faster vehicle, pass on the left. Don't squeeze between moving cars and the curb. It's okay to pass a left-turning vehicle on the right, but be sure it's really turning left. Okay. Yes, you're hoping that it's turning left when they have the left turn signal on. Okay, so how are we doing for time?
Doing good, Gosse.
Okay, so has anybody been influenced yet to get on the bike and ride around the City of London? Because there's lots of opportunity to do that. The city website has bike maps, and I don't know if you can make this smaller, but you don't need to see the entire city. You can just go to your own area, scroll around, even print off a piece of the map to take with you. There are in the legend, there's the Thames Valley Parkway. So that runs all the way from Byron, Springbank Park, goes right to the under Horton, through Horton Street, under the CN tracks, and ends up at the forks of the Thames. And then there's the South Thames branch, which takes you from the center of the city, and it's all marked by kilometer distance signs, to the Pottersburg Creek sewage treatment plant and the dog park. And that's at the 8-kilometer mark. And then from there on, although it's not considered part of the Thames Valley Parkway, it's connected to the Pottersburg Creek pathway, which is a nice, smooth, paved, asphalted, goes across the CN tracks through the park here, all the way to Wavell Street and down to Dundas. So the North Branch, and I know a lot of people ride primarily on the trails. So the Thames Valley Trail goes on two sides of the river. So through Harris Park, it goes to the Blackfriars Bridge where you can cross over, or you can start on the west side at the Ball Diamond and to Blackfriars Bridge. And now the city has extended it below Oxford Street to allow you to loop on to the north side of Oxford Street, a very busy road. On the other side, it takes you along the east side of the Thames, all the way through Harris Park, to the university at 4 kilometer mark, and to the Richmond Street North. And from there, a new section of pavement, if you haven't tried it yet, it's very nice. It's all landscaped and everything. Takes you across the bridge, across to the north side of the Thames, and then through a park, and across the bridge again to the Adelaide Street North playgrounds or ball fields, soccer pitches, and so on. And that connects underneath Adelaide Street, takes you all the way to Highbury. And at Highbury, you can go under the road and then go on Highbury across the bridge and take the trail now all the way into the Cedar Hollow Boulevard, which is a new subdivision. And you can't yet take it all the way to the Clark Road or the Veterans Memorial Parkway. I would not recommend riding on Veterans Memorial Parkway. But if you take the South Branch, it takes you almost this road here, which runs into Webster, across Huron Street, and then you can take the on-road cycle lanes past Fanshawe College, Second Street, and that takes you down to Dundas, Wavell, and then you can link up to this trail again. So that would make a nice loop of the city. It's approximately, I believe, about 42 kilometers, something like that. So that's a nice day's ride. Okay, if you are looking for roads that the city considers a recommended route on the roads, but no other infrastructure, then you take the red roads. These are bike routes that are signed. So again, they mentioned Springbank Drive. Personally, I would not ride on Springbank Drive. Traffic is treating it like a racetrack. It's unbelievable. I would take Emery Street, which is a quieter road, and takes you right across to Wellington. If you want to take buffered bike lanes, there's a few of those. And on Dundas, Dundas is now auto reduced street. It's called Dundas Place, and cars are only allowed on it to park. So you can take that route from Rideout Street, which is right now under construction, but is still accessible for cycling, right to Wellington. And then from there, there's a buffered bike lane, which is separate from driving, and it takes you all the way to Colburn Street, where there is a protected intersection right here at Colburn. And from Colburn, you can go north or south. So if you don't know what the protected intersection is, have a look. It's a European style intersection which separates the turning traffic drivers from cyclists and pedestrians. From there, you can take Dundas Street as total is a bike protected bike lane all the way to Western Fairgrounds, and then you can take that south on Egerton on bike lanes, and then a bike route back to Bridges Street, which has now got protected bike lanes, Wavell Street. It's under construction, so it's a little bit rough. They haven't put the final coat down yet. So that is it for, oh, I failed to mention the final type of bike lane, which is found in the Cleardale area, just north of Southdale. And it's, where are we here? It's a bike lane shared with parking, and it's this light green on Ferndale Ave. I haven't figured it out yet, but the city's put it in on their bike map, and so I'm including it here. So I'm turning it back over to you, Shaquille.
Alrighty. So one of the beauties that our city has been able to bring to us is actually in 2021, they were able to launch new bike lockers in order to offer people a secure solution for downtown bike parking. So one of the great things about these bike lockers is they are secure and they're located throughout the downtown core. So there's 3 locations. There's one at the corner of Dundas and Wellington Street, another at the north end of Clarence Street between Victoria Park and the former Williams Cafe. And the final one is an underground parking garage at the Covent Garden Market. And so these are accessible through a company called Movotic. You will need a smartphone in order to access it. But however, if you do have your smartphone on you, it allows you a very nice, safe and secure place to store your bike and also venture our beautiful downtown core. All right, so we have one last video.
I can't believe how great it feels on my feet.
Son, we need to talk.
We think Jerry's a bad influence on you.
This is because he drives a car, isn't it?
You ride a bike. Cars are dangerous to cyclists.
No, they're not. Times have changed. You don't know anything. I hate you. Stupid dad thinks he's so smart.
Hey, dude, I thought that was you. I could smell you a block away.
Oh, hey, Jerry.
What's the dealio? You look upset.
Oh, it's just my dad. He doesn't want me hanging out with you anymore.
Oh, snap. Your parents are whack. It's the car thing again, isn't it?
Yeah, he just doesn't get it. Cyclists and drivers don't have to hate each other. We're the same, just like a little different.
Like every country song ever written.
Exactly. Like, as a cyclist, I take care to follow the rules of the road and to ride predictably and to be respectful of drivers.
I know, right? And as a driver, I make sure that I'm respectful of cyclists. I know they've got rights, just the same as I do. I mean, the last thing I want is for someone to get hurt or to make someone's life harder.
I'm so tired of my dad thinking it's us against them, that drivers and cyclists have to be enemies. Things are so much easier when we just understand and watch out for each other. He's so stuck in the past.
I think I've heard quite enough, young man.
Dad? How long have you been standing there?
Long enough, son. Long enough.
How did you get here so fast?
Our house is like right there. You never were very fast on that bike, son. Jerry, I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong. I guess drivers aren't so bad after all. Drivers and cyclists just have to learn to respect one another. We're all the same where it counts. On the inside.
And on the road.
Put her there, pal. What say you come back to our place for dinner?
Sounds fly, Mr. D.
Who wants an orange pop?
So hopefully that was a little bit of comedic humor for you guys, but also a great lesson for us all to remember that as cars and as bikes, we both share the road. So whether you're cycling or whether you are driving on the road, remember to be respectful of one another. And I do want to take a moment once again to thank our sponsor, the Ontario Trillium Foundation, for sponsoring the Signal Boost initiative that allowed this event to come forward. If you all could take a moment to please fill out the Signal Boost Initiative survey. The link is in the chat. It does a great service to us in order to make sure that our programs are meeting the needs of Londoners and are also able to improve them over time so we can continually learn. And then finally, I want to extend a very gracious thank you to each and every one of you for attending, and also to Gosse and CanBike London for being able to work with us in order to put today's event on. So now, if anyone has any questions, I don't see any questions right now in the chat, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. Gosse is very knowledgeable and is willing to help you in terms of answering any of the kind of questions you may have.
No questions. I just want to say thank you. I'm out here in Calgary, Alberta. So the London stuff, I used to live in London. It was interesting, but thank you. And Vancouver has a really good program also. And Kimberley, BC has got some really neat ideas for trails with charging stations and bistros and everything. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
As a rider of an electric bike, I just love charging stations.
All right, so without further ado, thank you all for coming out tonight, and I hope you guys are able to enjoy the weather that is still out there. It's pretty nice out, so hopefully you guys can catch the sunset tonight, and there's still a little bit of time for you guys to go test out your bikes, so you can put some of your new skills in order. But thank you once again for coming and joining the Westminster Pond Center and CanBike in tonight's event.
Thank you.
Thank you.